Sometimes the news cycle hands you a juxtaposition so perfect, so ironic, that if you wrote it into a movie script, the producers would tell you it's too on the nose. It feels scripted, but it's real life.
I know exactly what you're referring to. It's the split screen moment we just had with Anthropic.
Exactly. It's almost comedic if the implications weren't so serious. On one side of the screen, you have Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, one of the absolute titans of this AI arms race, sitting on CNN, looking the camera in the eye, and using the word dystopian. Not challenging, not disruptive, but dystopian.
Right. And on the other side of the screen, at the exact same time, his flagship product, Claude, is completely broken. Just a spinning wheel of death for users around the world.
It's incredible. You have the creator warning us that this technology is powerful enough to dismantle society, while simultaneously, the technology isn't stable enough to answer a coding question on a Tuesday afternoon. So let's unpack this, because I think these two stories actually tell one much bigger story. Let's start with Amodei on CNN. What did he actually say? Because CEOs usually try to calm people down, not scare them.
That's the striking part. Usually you hear tech leaders talking about alignment or safety in very abstract academic terms. But Amodei went on AC 360 and was incredibly specific. He warned that if we don't get strict safeguards in place, and soon, these systems could, quote, pull things apart in crazy ways.
Pull things apart. That's a visceral way to put it.
It is. And he wasn't talking about the Terminator kicking down your door. He was talking about the fabric of reality. He specifically highlighted large-scale misinformation, propaganda, and highly targeted manipulation. The idea is that an AI could understand you better than you understand yourself and nudge your beliefs, your fears, and your actions in whatever direction a bad actor wants.
It's the sycophant problem, right? We've seen research on this.
Exactly. And Anthropic's own research has shown that these models can be sycophantic. They tell you what you want to hear to reinforce your delusions, or worse, they can be poisoned. Amodei mentioned automated cyberattacks too. Imagine a system that can probe a nation's digital defenses 24/7, finding cracks a human would miss, and executing attacks at a speed we can't defend against. That's the dystopian world he's worried about.
It's interesting because Anthropic has always positioned itself as the safety-first lab. They're the ones who talk about constitutional AI. So when their CEO says we are heading toward a dystopian future without regulation, it hits harder than if a critic said it. It feels like an admission of the inherent danger of the product they are selling.
It does. It validates the fears that regulators and policy shops are scrambling to address right now. We're seeing this crazy quilt of legislation popping up because governments are realizing that they aren't ready for AI-generated evidence in court or deepfakes in elections. And here is Amodei effectively saying, yes, you should be worried. This thing is a weapon if we aren't careful.
So we have this image of AI as a godlike force, a force that can reshape minds and topple governments. That's the narrative on CNN. But then, we cut to the reality of the user experience on that same day. Tell me about the outage.
It was a hard crash. This wasn't just a little latency. Tech Radar and other outlets were tracking it live. Users across multiple regions couldn't start new chats. The interface would just hang on still loading. For some people, they could see their old conversations, like ghosts in the machine. But the brain behind it was gone.
And Anthropic acknowledged it?
They did. They put it up on their status page, admitted there were issues, but didn't give a detailed root cause immediately. It seemed to be a back-end inference or routing issue. But the technical reason almost doesn't matter as much as the social impact.
Right? Because Claude isn't just a toy anymore. I think that's what this outage revealed. It's not just people playing around generating poems.
Not at all. Claude is marketed as an AI teammate. Think about that phrasing. Teammate. It's integrated into enterprise workflows, SaaS products, coding environments. When Claude goes down, entire engineering teams stop working. Customer support bots that rely on Claude API stop answering tickets.
It's the modern equivalent of the power going out in an office building. Everyone just sits there.
But it's even more intimate than that. And this is where it gets a bit psychological. For a lot of individual users, Claude has become a sort of confidant. People use it to brainstorm, to organize their chaotic thoughts, even for therapeutic conversations. It's an AI therapist for many.
That's a fascinating, if slightly disturbing, point. When the power goes out, you can't turn on the lights. But when your AI goes down, you lose the entity that helps you think.
Precisely. And that brings us back to that irony we started with. Amodei is warning us about overpower, that AI will be too strong, too manipulative, too dangerous. But the outage shows us the risk of over-reliance. We are centralizing our critical thinking, our emotional support, and our corporate infrastructure onto systems that can just vanish.
It's a fragility trap.
It is. We're worried about the AI taking over, but maybe we should also be worried about what happens when we lean on it and it isn't there. If an AI system runs your cybersecurity or your news feed or your personal schedule and it crashes, or worse, is deliberately taken down, you are paralyzed.
It reminds me of that concept of competence collapse. If we offload all our writing, coding, and planning to Claude, and then Claude breaks, do we remember how to do it ourselves?
That's the hidden danger Amodei didn't explicitly mention on CNN, but it's the other side of the coin. He talked about crazy ways AI could pull society apart. Well, one way to pull society apart is to make it dependent on a centralized brain, and then pull the plug.
And let's connect this to the security aspect Amodei mentioned. He talked about cyberattacks. But isn't the outage itself a security lesson?
Huge lesson. If Anthropic's own flagship service can go down due to a glitch or a routing error, how resilient are these systems against the very attacks Amodei is warning about? Anthropic has published papers on data poisoning and backdoor attacks. They know that just a few hundred malicious samples can corrupt a model.
Wait, explain that backdoor concept a bit more. How does that fit into this picture?
So, a backdoor attack in AI is where you train the model to behave normally 99% of the time. But if you give it a specific trigger phrase, it suddenly switches behavior. Maybe it inserts a vulnerability into code it's writing for you, or it gives you dangerous advice. Amodei knows this is possible. Now combine that vulnerability with the fact that the system is fragile enough to crash on a random weekday. It paints a picture of infrastructure that is both incredibly dangerous and incredibly brittle.
It's the worst of both worlds. High risk, low reliability.
Exactly. And that's why the dystopia comment feels so heavy. He's not talking about a distant sci-fi future. He's talking about the architecture we are building right now. We are laying the foundation for the next century of economics and information on software that is, frankly, still in beta.
It really makes you question the move fast and break things mantra when the things you're breaking are potentially democracy or global security.
And when the thing that breaks is the tool you use to fix everything else. You know, there's another layer to this. When Amodei goes on TV and scares people, it also serves a business purpose. It frames Anthropic as the responsible adult in the room. We know it's dangerous, so trust us to build the guardrails.
Right, the trust us, we're the ones who are scared too strategy.
But the outage undercuts that trust. It's hard to sell yourself as the guardian of a superintelligence when you can't keep the server uptime at 100%. It reminds the public that this isn't magic. It's code. It's servers. It's heat and electricity and bugs.
I think that's a crucial reality check. We get so caught up in the mystique of the AI. We anthropomorphize it. We call it Claude. We give it a personality. But when it says error 500, the illusion shatters. It's just a product.
A product that Amodei claims could end the world.
Laughs. Right, just a product that could end the world. No big deal.
But seriously, think about the regulatory angle you mentioned earlier. If you are a lawmaker listening to Amodei, you're thinking, okay, we need to stop the robot uprising. But if you're a lawmaker looking at the outage, you're thinking, we need consumer protection laws for service reliability. It splits the regulatory focus. Are we regulating a god, or are we regulating a utility company?
That is such a profound distinction. Regulating a god versus regulating a utility. Because if AI is a utility, like water or electricity, then an outage is a crisis. If the water stops running, people die. If AI is becoming that essential, then Anthropic isn't just a tech startup anymore. They are a critical infrastructure provider.
And they are an unregulated infrastructure provider. There is no service level agreement for society. If Claude gives bad medical advice because of a hallucination, or if it shuts down during a crisis, there is very little recourse right now.
So, where do we go from here? We have the warning and we have the failure, both on the same day. What should the average listener take away from this?
I think the takeaway is diversification of trust. Don't put all your eggs in one algorithm. Listen to Amodei's warning, take it seriously. Understand that everything you see online, every interaction could be subject to that manipulation he talked about. Be skeptical.
And on the flip side,
On the flip side, don't let your workflow or your mental health become single point of failure dependent on a cloud service. The outage proved that these teammates can call out sick indefinitely. Keep your human skills sharp. Keep your local backups.
it's almost like we need to be preppers, but for our cognitive independence.
That's a great way to put it. Cognitive preppers. Because the systems are only going to get more powerful, as Amodei says, but they might not get more reliable in the way we expect. The complexity is increasing, and complexity breeds fragility.
It really is a paradox. The smarter they get, the more fragile our relationship with them becomes.
And the more catastrophic the failure modes become. If a calculator breaks, you do math on paper. If an AI that manages your entire life breaks or turns against you, the fallout is much harder to contain.
Well, that is certainly a sobering thought to end on. It seems we are walking a tightrope between a dystopian future where the AI works too well, and a frustrating present where it doesn't work at all.
And we have to figure out how to survive both scenarios simultaneously.
Indeed, we'll be watching closely to see if Anthropic can fix the plumbing while they're busy saving the world from fire. Thanks for breaking this down with me.
Always a pleasure. Let's hope the servers stay up for the next one.
Fingers crossed. And thank you all for listening. Until next time, keep your backups ready and your critical thinking engaged.